Joining us now to talk about this, Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee. And, sir, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, glad to be able to be with you. Thanks for covering this.
Yeah, sure. It obviously, a message like that to Biden must hit harder when it comes from a Democrat, right?
Well, I would hope that anything would actually hit harder in this. The problem is most of the mainstream media, as you know, is not talking about the immigration crisis at all. People continue to say it must be getting better because no one's focused on it. But every single month, it continues to get worse. And what I brought up to Chief Magnus today was just a very simple, plain fact. We have the highest number of illegal crossings in the history of the country that's happened this year, and that's only happened from February to September. So the highest number of illegal crossings ever in the history of the country have skyrocketed. All we want to know is what's your plan to be able to make this stop, and do you plan to make this stop at all?
Did he give you any indication what he's going to do?
So, no, he did not, unfortunately. I mentioned it's the highest number of crossings ever in the history of the country, the highest amount of methamphetamines that have been interdicted in the country, the highest amount of fentanyl that's ever been interdicted in the history of the country. I asked him what his plan is. He said more coordination with all the agencies was the plan. No comment about actually finishing the wall that has huge gaps in it that they've stopped, reimposing asylum, things that President Trump did to be able to slow down the number of people asking for asylum so you only get legitimate asylum seekers that are coming through. No focus on what you're going to do on the immigrant children that are coming across, engaging with what's happening in Central America over and over and over again. President Trump cracked this, and the leadership of DHS just a year ago have brought the numbers down significantly. This administration seems to be totally clueless about what to be able to do. There's a pretty good roadmap that happened just a year ago.
I can't say I'm surprised, really. You think that whoever they're going to bring in, they kind of give them, the plan. They say this is what you're going to do. I don't think they bring in somebody that has their own ideas, that's for sure. Magnus, though, did indicate that the Trump-era policy, Title 42, we should say, which actually allows the government to deport migrants during a health emergency, will stay in place for now. Let's take a listen to that.
Do you believe that it's necessary to maintain the Title 42 public health expulsion order at the border?
But I think it's absolutely imperative that we do everything possible to stop the spread of COVID. And Title 42 is a CDC authority, and it helps. I think it helps with this.
So between that and we know they're going to have to reinstitute Remain in Mexico, do you think there are brighter days ahead for the southern border?
If they'll actually reinstate Remain in Mexico. Now, this is an area that obviously 6 weeks ago or more, the federal courts stepped into the Biden administration and said, you violated the law in just pulling out this Trump-era policy. You have to reinstate it. They've yet to actually reinstate it. They said they're just planning on it. Title 42, I've asked leadership at DHS point blank, if Title 42 goes away, they keep saying it's done by the CDC. So if the CDC decides at some point that they want to be able to do away with this policy, I've asked point blank, what is your plan to be able to fill in the gap here on this? And they currently have no plan B in the process. So there are folks that are being expelled based on this Title 42 pandemic authority. But if at some point they decide, you know what, numbers are going down and we're not in a pandemic anymore, they have no plan to be able to stop the, literally at that point, hundreds of thousands of people coming across the border every single month.
You know, I have a weird theory, and I brought it up last night because I know there's a lot of Republicans in this country that think that this administration is welcoming Central American migrants and migrants from all over the world because they're trying to pack the voter rolls. I actually think that they're just beholden to a far left they don't know how to say no to. And I actually believe that when they get the opportunity to be able to say that Remain in Mexico is back, not because we want it back, but because the Supreme Court and another court have said we have to implement it. I think they're actually going to be glad that they have that, because I think when they look at their numbers and they see how they're polling, and when they see how they're polling on immigration, I really don't think the Biden administration wants this mayhem. I don't think they think they can win anything with this kind of lunacy at the border. I just don't think they know how to say no to the open border people. Does that make sense to you?
Although it not only makes sense to me, I agree with that. I don't think there's some secret conspiracy about voting. Obviously, some people do. That's fine. They can have their opinion. Yeah. I really think is they don't know how to manage the chaos, and they don't know how to manage the far left progressives that believe in open borders. For those of us that believe in immigration, we have 1 million people a year that legally come into the country, that do it the right way, become citizens. We celebrate those individuals coming from all over the world. But just this calendar year, we've had people from over 100 different countries illegally cross our southern border. For those of us that like legal immigration, we just as strongly don't like illegal immigration.
Yep.
And we want to see actually people follow the law. The far, far left, they are open borders folks, and they want to celebrate people, and they don't like the law. You can see that in Portland and Seattle for people that don't like the law and what that really looks like. And we can see it on our southern border, the consequence of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I want to bring up, finally, my favorite story of the day. Senator Ted Cruz introducing a bill which he says will relieve border communities dealing with a massive influx of illegal immigrants, suggesting establishing new ports of entry in Democrat-led communities such as North Hero, Vermont, where Bernie Sanders spends his summers, and Martha's Vineyard, where Democrat elites host their cocktail parties. And you just have this image in your head of all of these elites that never have to deal with any of the problems that they create in this country, all of a sudden just seeing a huge onslaught of issues from a migrant caravan arriving in Martha's Vineyard. That cracked me up.
No, I've had a very simple statement for several months now that we should actually take everyone illegally crossing the border and move them to Delaware and just check them in Delaware. The president loves Delaware, so let's have all million of these folks actually just go to Delaware and see how that works at that point.
Let's put 10 families in the White House. I mean, put your money where your mouth is. They got a lot of rooms. Lincoln bedrooms open.
They also have a wall around the White House as well, and he doesn't seem to like walls.
No, yeah, it's funny. Not for anybody else, but for them. Senator James Lankford, thank you so much for taking the time. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you again.